Truth Unveiled here, and today I have some very urgent stuff to share with you. It has to do with bestiality and how Canada has just legalized it, literally, because I'm here at the Independent and it says, most bestiality is legal, declares Canada's Supreme Court. The court left it up to Parliament to better define the term. What time do you think it is? But it says sex acts with animals are legal in Canada so long as there is no penetration involved, according to a surprise ruling issued by the Supreme Court. And with all the draconian laws that have been passed within the past couple of years, is it a surprise at all? But let's keep going. The determination stemmed from a case involving a British Columbia man convicted of 13 counts sexually assaulting his stepdaughters, including one count of bestiality. And it goes on to say that the man, identified only as DLW, he was acquitted of the bestiality count with the new ruling, and we're going to go to that ruling in just a second to come. And then it goes on to say that DLW's attorneys argued that bestiality linked to buggery or sodomy with animals beginning with an 1892 criminal code. Bestiality was then first used in a 1955 code, but still was not defined to encompass every sex act with animals. I wonder why. Although bestiality was often subsumed in terms such as sodomy or buggery, penetration was the essence, the defining act of the offense, the court said. So according to the court itself, it wasn't bestiality itself that was the crime, it was the act of penetration that's the crime. Very interesting and suspicious indeed. Then it goes on to say that thus the court ruled by a 7-1 majority that bestiality required penetration. There is no hint in any of the parliamentary record that any substantive change to the elements of the offense of bestiality was intended, the ruling reads. According to court record, DLW smeared peanut butter on the genitals of his victims and had the family dog lick it off while he videotaped the act. And it says DLW is serving a 16-year prison sentence. He brought the bestiality conviction to the court on appeal, and we're going to go over more of this in just a second. And the question you should be thinking about is, why isn't this getting a lot of attention? You've been hearing a whole lot about the entertainment world and about Muhammad Ali and about what Hillary and Trump are doing and Bernie Sanders and the supposed 2016 elections and about things that do not matter. But meanwhile, these draconian laws are being passed right in front of you. Oh, but everything's okay according to Mr. Obama, and we know darn well it's only a matter of time until this same stuff comes to America real soon. And it says from RT that Canada's top court rules all non-penetrative sex acts involving animals are in fact legal. And it says that Canada's Supreme Court has acquitted a British Columbian man of bestiality charges, as under the country's laws a sexual act with an animal can be found only unlawful in the case of it involving penetration. The man, known only by initials DLW, convicted of 13 accounts of sexually assaulting his two stepdaughters over a 10-year period, has successfully challenged a separate count of bestiality, which, as it turns out, requires penetration for it to have been illegal. What time do you think it is? It's only a matter of time until they keep pushing these draconian laws and legalizing things such as pedophilia, abortion, and the whole 9 yards. And it says the decision that was supported by all but one of the justices acquitted the man of forcing the family dog to take part in the sexual abuse of his stepdaughters, Reuters reported. And now later on, we'll talk about some of the organizations already teaming up to try to stop this act from passing. Remember, problem, reaction, solution. But it goes on to talk about the court and how they define bestiality. And we've already gone over this, but we'll do it again to reiterate this. But it says, although bestiality was often subsumed in terms such as sodomy or buggery, penetration was the essence, the defining act of the offense, the court said, according to the Independent, which we just reported. And like I said before, what's the main essence of the defining act? Penetration itself, and not the act of bestiality itself? Then it goes on to say the court didn't have the power to rule otherwise, since all of the previous decisions regarding bestiality have always involved penetration, which is an obligatory aspect in such cases. Justice Thomas Cromwell, writing on behalf of all the judges, said Parliament adopted that term bestiality without adding a definition to it. Why wouldn't they add a definition to it? In the legislative history and evolution of the relevant relevant provisions show no intent to depart from the well-understood legal meaning of the term. Any expansion of criminal liability for this offense is within Parliament's exclusive domain, Cromwell concluded. Why are they being so quiet about it, and why aren't they even giving it a definition of bestiality? Because they're trying to legalize it any single way they can. Now, of course, Anonymous is already on the case, and we can already expect riots to ensue real soon. But I'm here at the actual case, as you can see, from the Supreme Court of Canada. And as you can see, the case is entitled R versus DLW. And I'll leave the link below so that you can see it. I'm not going to go over all of it, but what I did want to go over and what I found very interesting about this case is how they define bestiality. Now, it says criminal law, bestiality, elements of offense, interpretation, accused convicted of bestiality. Accused put peanut butter on complainant's vagina and had dog lick it off while he videotaped. Whether term bestiality has well understood legal meaning in common law, and if so, whether Parliament intended to depart from that meaning when that term was first introduced in the English version of Criminal Code, whether penetration an essential element of offense of bestiality. And it goes on to talk about it, but the part I really wanted to talk about is when it talks about whether or not bestiality has a legal meaning or not. Well, why would that even need to be the case? Why are they even talking about that to begin with? But it even says that Parliament did not explicitly or by necessary implication change the well understood legal meaning of the term bestiality when it amended the Criminal Code in 1955 and in 1988. There is no express statutory provision expanding the scope of the bestiality offense, and further, there is nothing in the legislative evolution and history that supports any parliamentary intent to bring about such a change by implication. So basically, they're trying to sit here and say that, oh, well, because it wasn't amended by the Criminal Code, because a so-called code does not determine what bestiality is or does not define what bestiality is, that means that it can be okay, right? Let's keep going. The required clarity and certainty are entirely lacking. Courts will only conclude that a new crime has been created if the words used to do so are certain and definitive. That's what they're trying to sell us. This approach not only reflects the appropriate respective roles of Parliament and the courts, but the fundamental requirement of the criminal law that people must know what constitutes punishable conduct and what does not, especially when their liberty is at stake. So having sex with an animal is not punishable according to them. The important questions of penal and social policy involved in broadening the offense of bestiality are matters for Parliament to consider if it so chooses. Well, why wouldn't it? But it goes on to say Parliament may wish to consider whether the present provisions adequately protect children and animals, but it is for Parliament, not the courts, to expand the scope of criminal liability for this offense, absent clear parliamentary intent to depart from the clear legal definition of the elements of the offense. It is manifestly not the role of the courts to expand that definition. Well, why wouldn't they if they're the ones executing judgment? There should be a clear definition of what's going on and a difference between what's right and what's wrong. But don't you see the bigger agenda and how they're purposefully doing this so that what they can legalize these draconian laws any single way they can, and to spark uptick and uproar in people, problem, reaction, solution, in order to get ready for the new world order. Now, this is the actual criminal code that they're using, and as you can see, I'm here at bestiality at subsection 160, and if you search this, this is the one that they actually use that comes from RSC 1985 C-46, and it talks about incest in detail, but it talks about their definition of bestiality, and it says, every person who commits bestiality is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years, or is guilty of an offense punishable on summary conviction. But if you keep going, it talks about a bestiality compelling the commission of bestiality. Every person who compels another to commit bestiality is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years, or is guilty of an offense punishable on summary conviction. Then it talks about, of course, bestiality in the presence of a child. But the problem that's coming from this and stemming from all of this is when the courts are saying that, oh, it's not bestiality itself, but rather it's the penetration, and that is the act of the offense. That is what they're basically saying in a nutshell. This this is a report from CBC that says Supreme Court's bestiality ruling prompts call to change archaic animal welfare laws. And what's important about this, and something that we all need to keep in mind, is that we see the warning signs, we see all of the calls for peace and security, we see everything taking place. We see the Baphomet statue that was placed in Detroit, we see the Georgia Guidestones that were placed in Georgia, the very first one, that's calling for depopulation to 500 million people. So we see that as well, and we see all of the elite pushing for the new world order and the one world government for what Operation Depopulation, as well as the draconian laws. We see that every single day, and we see how archaic these laws are, and we see that they're basically pushing anything that they want, getting ready for the 1984 type style government of what the police state and everything else, and the satanic laws that are going on as well. So it should not surprise us, and like I said in many of my other videos, you can expect all of this to come to America real soon. You can also expect them to legalize even more things such as child marriage and pet marriage and marriage with anything. In some places, they've already married the ocean. I'm telling you, this stuff is real, and it's time you wake up and see what's going on and see what time it really is. Now, I'm also here at the CKNW News Talk, and it says animal rights activists upset about Supreme Court of Canada bestiality decision. And it says that an animal advocacy organization is decrying a Supreme Court of Canada decision relating to a case of bestiality in British Columbia. Canada's highest court has dismissed an appeal launched by Crown after a BC man originally convicted of sexually assaulting his stepdaughters with the family dog was acquitted of a bestiality charge. The man, only known as DLW, argued he didn't commit the offense because it didn't involve intercourse, and the Supreme Court of Canada agrees, stating that penetration is an essential element of bestiality, and that itself is the crime rather than bestiality itself. And it says it essentially legalizes forms of sexual abuse of animals across the country of Canada. The highest court says any expansion of criminal liability for the offense would have to come from Parliament itself. So what is the conclusion here? What can we conclude from all of this? Well, now that bestiality is essentially legal in Canada, it's only a matter of time until they bring it to America, and it's only a matter of time until more draconian laws such as pedophilia is legalized, and in some places they've already legalized it to marry the ocean. And we already see it with the bathroom cases, because if a man feels like he's a woman today, he can go into the woman's bathroom with little girls in there. Not to mention child marriage as well. Please seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha, because it's only a matter of time until these things come to fruition in preparation of the new world order. This is Truth Unveiled here, saying shalom.